We'll start by talking about the very first Waterfront Summit. It's never been done since the existence of the MWIG, Lagos State Ministry of Waterfront Infrastructure Development. The theme, as we all know, is called Pressure on the Lagoon. Why the theme? As we know, we have 187 kilometers of coastline in Lagos. In Yoruba, they say, Bo se n se or Nikan lo n se owa ogogun. What's happening to the lagoon is different from what's happening on the Atlantic coastline. However, when you take a look at it, our existence as a people depends on the lagoon. Without the lagoon, we can't be sat here today in this building, in the press center, this edifice built for the members of the press. We're dealing with all sorts of things. But what do you do when it's an act of God? You can only pray. But when it's an act of man, then it means you don't pray to man, you talk to man. It means we need to speak with each other. How does it concern us? It concerns everybody. When you look at it from the tourism point of view, what's happening with our waterfront? Everything that we're facing, I would say 95% of what we're facing is man-made, are man-made problems. When you consider or you look at issues of illegal reclamation and all sorts that's going on, it happens in the communities. It does not happen in Abuja and then they import it to Lagos. The problems is here. The fresh water we depend on, the boreholes we drink, the boreholes we sink for fresh water comes from the same lagoon. Waste is discharged into the lagoon. Thinning out of our lagoon. There are threats of salt water mixing with fresh water. What do we think would happen when, should, God forbid, should this natural disaster strike? What do we do? We're also dealing with the issues of rising cost of seafood. When we talk seafood, we don't have to think of the very exotic or the expensive or the exquisite ones. Let's even talk about the ones that are right here in front of us. They're becoming out of reach. Regular fish is becoming ridiculously expensive. What do we do? What do we do? This is a point where you also realize that when you look at, I like to know what is happening on the other side of the fence, not because I want to gossip about it, not because we want to gossip about it, but we want to learn from it and to make sure that we do not make the same mistakes that they've made. I continue to talk about Dubai. I'm an architect and I know what the cost of construction is, what it used to be in the last 1 year, what it has become. So let's imagine closing our eyes. Even this reclamation works going on at the moment, you find out that now they used to dredge sand from 400 meters, 100 meters. Now they're going as far as 10 kilometers to pump legal, approved or unapproved reclamation works. What that does is it tells me something. It tells me that we're dealing with issues. So what happened to the sand they used to get between the 10 kilometer distance? What happens in another year or in another 2 years when we have all gone at the end of the administration? Will they still be dredging sand at 10 kilometers or would have gone further to maybe 20 kilometers? Who knows? Maybe you would have even crossed over to Ogun State or somewhere else. But we're flirting with danger. We're really flirting with danger. There's no community where these things happen without the community members, the community leaders, the community heads being aware. But we would assume that they may not be aware of the impact that these would cost. How do you regulate or discipline somebody who doesn't respect you? It's an impossibility. So the first thing you do is you earn their respect. Sitting down with them, talking to them, highlighting and showing it to them that this is what we're dealing with. What kind of waterfront would we like to see? We go to Dubai, we go to all these places, but let's leave those places and let's take an imaginary walk along our coastline towards Benin Republic, Togo, and look at the beautiful things happening there on their waterfront. This is something that will also enhance tourism seriously. When people go to Dubai, they want to go see Palm Jumeirah. Palm Jumeirah is nothing else but reclamation work. They just decided to make the best of it by also making it a tourist attraction. Oh, they've reclaimed land that looks like palm trees. Everybody goes there. Look at the kind of money they make. They have boardwalks. Close your eyes and look around Lagos. And I'll be very, very glad if you can tell me anywhere where we have proper boardwalks in a place like Lagos State. It's not going to happen by itself. It's something we're going to have to sit down, look at those problems. On the Atlantic side, there's a serious case of coastal erosion. And it really threatens the 180-kilometer stretch of road, of coastline. When we look at one of the villages that we built, some of the villages that we visited, sometimes we have to be proactive and sometimes you have no choice but to be reactive. In some cases where we've had to react to go see those places, I remember the community head telling us, showing us his school that he went to. The school was a little over 1,000 kilometers right inside of the Atlantic Ocean. Before we had a culture of burying our dead, our loved ones, where we live. It's no longer allowed, as I understand, I think since the administration of BRF. But when this happens, you would see the skeletal remains being washed up. So when you look at some villages, Itoke village, Idotun village, Origonrikan, Mayegun, Okunde, Okunaja, Okumopo, just to mention a few, they're really being bombarded. And that was a major reason why we had to go visit the Netherlands. I, my PS, and some vital departments to go see how this is really being done. They say that it's not enough to do your best at anything. You must know what to do first before you do your best at it. Hence, our going there, establishing a relationship with them, and acknowledging their expertise and asking for their help. This is a prelude to our summit, and it cannot be successful without you. Please permit me to refer to you as you guys. It makes it less very formal. Keeps us like, we can't do it without you. We can talk from now till tomorrow. What are we looking at achieving at the summit? Coming up with policies, agreeing, identifying problems, profiling solutions. I think we have admired our problems for too long, how beautiful our problems are. This is now the time to get up, speak to those problems, come up with policies, come up with laws, identify how we can conquer, and then move forward from there. If you've listened to me over time, I have always asked the question of if anybody can tell me anywhere else in the world where reclamation works is done like it's being done in Lagos. I haven't seen anywhere else in the world. And of course, these things would come at there will be consequences if unchecked. Reclamation has always been going on in Lagos, even before I was born. Where needed. But we're now, I believe we're now facing an issue where we're unable to differentiate between the need for it and the want for it. And of course, some reclamation works have been approved. Some are just reckless forms of actions on our waters. As you know, sand dredging in Lagos is the same to Lagos is what illegal bunkering is to the Niger Delta. So for every time they see sand, the thought that drops in their mind is about money and nothing beyond that. When you look at places like, what's that place in Essex? I'll remember now. Isle of Wight is natural, the other one, that popular one. Canary Wharf. When you look at places like Canary Wharf in London, sorry? Oh yes, Chelsea, Canary Wharf, and things like this. These are places they are proud of. These are places people go to visit. They're reclamation works, but they're killing two birds with one stone. They're taking care of a problem, and they're also opening up opportunities for economic gains, real estate, and things like that. But here, it's like the Wild West at the moment, where we continue to, where you have to, how many times have we been abroad and we've seen enforcement teams carrying out those things? But this is a regular thing we see in this part, in this climb. And that's the reason why we need to let them see what it is and what it could be. Some of those, we met quite a number of issues on ground when we got here. As they say, government is a continuum. So we inherited some liabilities, and those liabilities, I can tell you, we have resolved to, I would say 95% of the issues we inherited there at Waterfront. Some of those issues are issues of reclamation, amongst many other things. It's being done everywhere. We still went planning non-adherence to approved projects, approved layouts and things like that. And honestly, you can't be a nice guy, or you can't be a nice ministry and still achieve those. You should know when to be tough talking, and you should know when to act, when to apply wisdom, and all of these things, experience. They say you cannot say you have experienced life until you have lived it. We're actually seeing, I didn't know anything about Waterfront until when I got there. But one thing that really scares us, I've had a couple of discussions with my peers, and I think to a certain extent I can speak on her behalf as well as our directors here, that one thing we cannot afford to do is we cannot afford to fail, because there's a lot at stake out there. Those islands are rounding up. However, I can tell you that we have been, a major issue, or an issue is that there have been a lot of works done in silos. But now we're better coordinated on the state front. We work with the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources. We work with physical planning. We work with the Ministry of Transport, with the Ministry of Agriculture, and so many others, to make sure that we're almost rounding up. We've sorted most of the problems of those islands, and that's why you see a lot of work going on now. We have issues of abandoned shipwrecks, which we've gotten to realize that it's like an insurance scam going on right now. They bring those dredgers and those things to Lagos, they use them, and they abandon them here. They claim their insurance payoffs, and they put our lives at risk. We know what happens with rust in water, how it affects sea life. Like Michael Jackson said, it's almost as if they don't really care about us. And we have to care for ourselves. We have to look out for ourselves. Nobody will look out for us better than we can for ourselves, as a state, as a people. For us to enjoy, we're dealing with so many things when it comes to water. We already have a culture that does not really encourage us. My mother, for one, is guilty of that, who gave us the impression growing up that because she knows 2 of her friends whose children died in the pool, came up with the belief that anytime you're near water, you die. Now, I and somebody sat to my right can now ride on water freely without worries or being afraid anymore. It's becoming a part of us. It's something we can enjoy. Boardwalks. Where do you go? Every beach we have today, you have to pay to go on it. Why? They have to be maintained as a result of the erosion. Replenishment has to kick in, and through replenishment, somebody has to pay for it. So to enjoy it, you pay for it. But like water is supposed to be free, access is supposed to be free. But when we're able to sort this out, when you look at areas like Waliola Teju, I think it can be way better than what it is right now. When you look at Oworonshoki, we have to be very strategic about it. We talk about the island, the island, the island. Well, me, I'm not from the island, I'm from the mainland. But the mainland can be as beautiful as the island. So we thought, let's start from Oworonshoki. That's where the third mainland bridge starts from. You see some reclamation works going on there as well. Some have happened, some are. We're in the process of also trying to sort some approvals out so that we can actually get to beautify it, give it the befitting beauty it's supposed to have. So after the summit, we will let everybody know that it's not going to business as usual. If you err, well, and I know that when we stand together with your support, we can achieve it. Without your support, it's not going anywhere. But with your support, I know that we'll conquer and we'll achieve together. I think the third, talking about balancing economic development and things, and sustainability. You can still kill 2 birds with 1 stone, to be honest with you, and that's what we're doing. That's why we're making sure that without a sign-off from the Ministry of Environment, from drainage clearance, Ministry of Transport with their EIA with their TIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. Without those things, nothing would happen. Because definitely that is what will speak. It's not enough to say, oh, it's going to be viable. What will it do to the ecosystem? And the moment it passes it, we never even move forward without it once we know that it will offend the laws of nature or put us at risk. So we've always been able to strike that balance, at least since this team assumed office, we've been able to achieve those things. So you barely see any reclamation work approved by us without those necessary requirements. But a major thing we need to do is for all agencies, both at the federal and the state level, state government levels, to come together, speak with one voice. Otherwise, the menace out there will continue to take advantage of the not too smooth arrangement. So I think that's why everybody would be there at this summit. All that concerns the Navy, School of Oceanography, everybody would be there. We talk about all the problems facing CDR, Boskalis, quite a number of them, the Netherlands Embassy, all of them would be there for us to solve these problems together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we applaud the Commissioner, please? We'll take a final round of questions, just a final one, and then we'll wrap up this session. Thank you.
My Commissioner, sir. Back to look at the calendar. I report for the maps of Lagos State and Lassa.
Except for my accountant, who's been counting money all day. We're all very excited. It's not going to be just an academic exercise. No, we're not a party to that. We're bringing, it's like baking a cake. You don't use the same quantity of egg as you will use sugar. Butter has its own quantity. In fact, baking powder has the role it will play, as well as yeast will have the role it will play. we're bringing everybody together to speak. We're BRF, His Excellency Babatunde Rajafashola, Mumiz Banire, of course, Mr. Governor he's the chief host. We're bringing CDR. They know everything about everything that has to do with our waters here. We're also looking at signing an MOU with them on that day. There are people who are showing indication of supporting the research. So they have to do some studies, pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, and then move on in solving the problems. Sorry, I missed out on something earlier on Eco-Atlantic. All our proponents will be there. Somebody had mentioned something about Eco-Atlantic. Yes, you did, Eco-Atlantic. Well, something gave birth to Eco-Atlantic. It wasn't just a lifestyle. If we look at things from where they started, you can't base something on nothing. That decision was born out of saving Victoria Island. And we had done everything possible. We had done our best, but our best was not, as a state, was not actually working. It was something we had never experienced before. I remember growing up where the Bar Beach was so far, as far as a kilometer, if not more. I've heard all sorts. Some have said that there was the erosion was caused by Dimka and them Oyenusis that they had executed there, which I disagree because they've been long gone. You see people throwing up all sorts, but the major thing was we had tried bags, stone walls, rubble walls, none worked. Until this same CDR came up with an idea that, where was even this place 100 years ago? So what caused that erosion from 100 years ago to now? Well, if it lasted that, why don't we reclaim back to where it was 100 years ago? If it can last another 100 years, then in 100 years, they will sort whatever problem may come about. And of course, this is the period in time, around about now is when we usually experience issues with our waters, flooding and things like that. It's simple, straightforward. Number one, it's our rainy season. Number two, this is the period where all that snow melts from up there, North America, Alaska and all that. When snow melts, it turns to water. Where does the water go? It's the same water that goes around the world. So where does it go? Because of where we are, it comes here. And that's why we have we've very, very carefully selected those who would talk. We don't want anybody falling asleep on that day. From somebody just reading a speech. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be fireworks. It's going to be speaking the truth to each other, and then moving on from there to say we have agreed that this is what we are going to do, coming up with a communique, and then setting our new rules and policies from there that would help to eventually shaping our waterfront into what it ought to be.